Just awesome. You know, I'm glad I got to go out on top and the way any basketball player wants to go out.
10 national championships for this UConn program. And Geno Auriemma, what has it been like to play for him?
It's been incredible. It's been a struggle. It's been, you know, one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but obviously one of the most rewarding.
Did I see some tears up there on the podium?
Yeah, you know, when you struggle as much as we did, you get emotional. You know, you're so happy with how much you worked for this.
Can you take us inside that struggle? Because Geno said this was a tough season. What were the things you guys were pushing through?
Pushing through finding our roles, finding how we're supposed to be leaders, you know, learning how to work as a team.
It's really hard to put words to it right now, but I definitely think, you know, it's an incredible feeling. And to doing it with the girls that I get to spend all the time with, you know, they're amazing people, and I'm so happy that they're my teammates.
What was so special about the starting five this season?
I mean, I think we just worked really well together, and the entire team had this great chemistry off the floor, and it really translated to on the court. So I think when you really like each other off the court and have a good time, it really translated on the court. I mean, it worked all the way around.
We saw tears from Breanna Stewart. What do you think was behind that? That was a really touching moment.
I mean, I think this was just an emotional one for her. And I mean, she's an incredible player, and she's done so much for this program already, and there's still more to come. So
Stop
it! I don't like them right now. So I definitely think, you know, she deserved it.
Year number one playing for Coach Auriemma. What's that been like for you?
I mean, it's been a really fun road. I definitely think, you know, the way he coaches is a great way, and it's what I came here for. And I definitely think, you know, I can only go up from here and learn more from him.
You know, and a lot of times that goes for coaches too. You know, I wanted to be better. I wanted to be better as the season went on. You know, I wanted to be a better coach for them, you know, at the end of the season. So we spent a lot of time during the season kind of growing up together. You know, they didn't trust very much early in the season. They just thought everything was going to be, you know, real easy, and they didn't really depend on each other that much. They kind of, you know, wanted to, you know, somebody else to do the hard work, and little by little, you know, they became trustworthy, and I trust them now, and I think they trust me. You know, when Rebecca was a senior and we won that championship, we all were in a situation where none of us knew what we were doing. We were just kind of winging it, you know. None of us had been there before. None of us had done that. It was like a magical ride, you know, and we all just rolled with it. With each year, it's gotten increasingly more difficult to get to the same point, because now you know what all the pitfalls are. I'm going to look back at some point, and it's going to be, I'm going to have to read it to really comprehend everything that we've done. I'm going to have to really actually read it.
Question here in the front.
Geno, I know you've been asked and commented on this a lot this week, but now that it's here, 10 up, 10 down, Phil Jackson, John Wooden, Geno Auriemma, can you reflect on that now that it's here?
Well, none of those other guys you mentioned coached any bad teams with bad players on them. So we all have that in common. You know, we all coached some of the most iconic players to play the game of basketball. So I think we have that as the thread that runs through all three. You know, anytime you're in a championship situation, you know, anytime you're trying to, you know, win any tournament, but especially the national championship, you know, so many things have to go right. And you have to have players that make those plays, that make it go right, you know. To do that 10 times in a row, to win 10 and be 10-0 in national championship games is again, it's too big for me to think about it. It's too much.
Question right here.
Well, Geno, a question along those lines. When you match John Wooden with 10 national championships, invariably there are going to be people who say, well, you coach women, Wooden coach men, it's different. How do you hope UConn's 10 championships, your 10 championships, are measured in the scope of basketball history?
The way whichever way they want to mention it, whichever way they want to acknowledge it, whichever way anybody wants to, put it on a pedestal or keep it somewhere else, I said this the other day to people, we're not real good in this country about appreciating just people that are good. We always have to compare, we don't appreciate, Stewie. We have to compare her to somebody playing in the NBA or somebody playing college basketball. I go through that with our Olympic team. Our Olympic team is the best team in the history of the Olympics. We won 5 straight gold medals. But because we travel with the greatest basketball players in the world, when you make a comparison, you always come up short. So you kind of got to appreciate it in its own, in its own element and say, okay, well, relative to their peers, those guys are really, really good. Because if we start relegating it, and we go by, what's the most important sport in the country? The NFL. So Bill Belichick's the only coach worth a shit right now. Everybody else is just trying to catch up to him. But every other coach that you mentioned, whether it's Phil Jackson, Coach K, Anson Dorrance down in North Carolina, the women's soccer coach. When you accomplish something that's really hard to accomplish, you should be proud of yourself. And how people want to compare you to anybody else, that's their prerogative. Some people are going to say this is really, really great and historic and an unbelievable achievement. And some people are going to poo-poo it. So, as you can tell by some of my comments in the last couple of weeks, I've lost the ability to care or give a damn what people think.